Namaste, yogis. Welcome to Happy Jack Yoga Podcast. I'm Happy Jack, live from West Palm Beach, Florida, stranded here. I'll share more about that. And I'm live with,
Happy Hanna and happy Coco in Muskoka, Canada.
nice, that's where I'm supposed to be right now. Air Canada has went on strike. But I mean, truly, I've got compassion for the employees. Probably they want what they feel they deserve. And the company is, trying to make it sustainable, but a little inconvenience that every Air Canada flight worldwide has been canceled for 4 days. But I do get to fly home today. So, Hanna, will see you this afternoon and we'll make it back home. But it's good to be back. I guess I was away last week. So you held down the fort with our dear friend Chris Piva, a former grad from way back in the day. And yeah, what's on your heart today, Hanna?
On my heart, there's gratitude. It's a beautiful morning, kind of like late summer vibes. It's a little bit crispier air when I go and walk my little Coco in the morning. And I'm excited to come get you today from the airport.
Nice. Yeah, same. It's been here, so I'm in West Palm Beach. It's been a bit of a whirlwind in a good way. Been serving with Tony Robbins, helping him lead his business mastery event, which actually is the very first event I did with Tony about 10 years ago. And I thought I was showing up to a business seminar. I had no idea that, what anything really much about Tony Robbins. Clearly, drank the Kool-Aid, fell in love, was very, very inspired and have done a lot of events since, 60 something. But something I found, is as amazing as the past week have been, in ways I felt out of my element. Like 10 years, I was a different person 10 years ago. Even I was a different person 5 years ago. Hannah, you know it. And like just having lived at the ashram for the last couple of years, like living at a very Sattvic, simple ashram, and then spending the summer at Govardhan Eco Village, where actually many on the call are going to be with us in the fall. And kind of really in my natural tendency going all in, being very extreme, one could say. So these past few years on bhakti and on spirituality, and then to throw myself into a room of thousands of people, rocking out to rock classics and top of the pops and music. And so I found, truthfully, I found myself for the first few days like really out of my element. I'm like, what am I doing here? um
Did you feel like you don't belong? Or can you say more about that? Like, what do you mean out of your element? Like, I understand the contrast between ashram life and conference room that is cold with Tony music and thousands of raging people who are having fun. Although the ashram vibe is very similar to that in some ways. The
right.
raging and having fun element seems to be consistent, but can you share more about your experience? What do you mean by out of your element? And how are you different from like what would you notice? How would you word it? The Jack
So I
10 years
mean,
ago, 5 years ago, and now.
so when I say out of my element, I definitely felt welcome. I mean, everybody, all of the trainers, all of our team who is helping to lead the event, all participants, like I definitely felt welcome and so it's all good vibes. But I guess with out of my element, just as we were, dancing in the way that we're dancing and singing the songs that we're singing
What
and
do you mean
just
that your morning dance at the ashram is different?
well, yeah, I mean the songs here might be like Rihanna, about shaking your ass,
Yeah.
right? And so I haven't been listening to music about shaking my ass or you know what I mean? That kind of stuff. And I'm not saying it's bad. But then I was just asking myself, is this who I am? I mean, it's not how I've been living lately, beating my chest, screaming, I am a gladiator, dancing in that way. So I guess I was just in inquiry and I kind of found myself wanting, needing breaks. So I had to step out of the room periodically and just go take a yoga nidra, take
That's
a little
so
bit of a rest.
That's so fascinating because remember when you were deep down in the Tony rabbit holes, you wanted to take everybody to these experiences. And
Mhm.
some people that you did take, they might have felt that already back then. And you couldn't understand it. You were like, I cannot believe it. They didn't love it.
That's a good point. Yeah, because I mean, I brought obviously you many times. I brought both your sons. I brought my brother, my sister, my sister-in-law. Yeah, I mean, because it changed my life in so many ways. But that's a fair point, right? At that time when I was very aligned with it and very inspired by it, and wanted to bring everybody I cared about into the environment, and the majority of people embraced it, and a couple of people it wasn't their thing. And it's true. Probably in that moment, I was like, "You're crazy. How could you not?" Yeah, and so we're just at different places in life.
Yeah, it's fascinating though. And now when you look at your own experience, how have you changed? If you were to say, like I'm teasing you a little bit with the dancing and that because it's kind of funny, but
Mhm.
honestly, like what is your experience like of yourself and your own personal evolution if you look at like 10, 5, and now years ago?
Yeah, well, I'll just say a little bit more. Like what the lifestyle I've been living for the most part, out with my parents in Muskoka, at the ashram in Boston, at the eco village in India, is very sattvic. And so that means going to bed early, getting a good full night's sleep, waking up early, having many hours for spiritual practice, going for walks in the nature. This really nourishes me now. This just, 45 this year, for whatever reason, those practices nourish me. And so I found, being in the environment where, staying up, we were up till 1:30 in the morning,
There's a
midnight.
time zone called Tony time.
Yeah. And on the team, you're the first ones there and the last ones to leave, right? So it's not uncommon to get 5 hours sleep, 6 hours sleep. And of course, we can get breaks during the day, but just kind of staying up late, not getting a full sleep, not having as much time for my spiritual practice, not being outside in the nature and the fresh air and the vitamin D. It's it's just truly it's exhausting.
Yeah.
But at the same, I mean, I'm going to get to later on that there's some benefits, and I needed it. Um, but I guess yeah, how I've changed, I guess um, I don't know. I mean, you can speak to that as well, but maybe I guess I had a different goal in life when I walked into the Tony Robbins environment. I mean, I've always prioritized health, so that's been a through line through for the past 3 decades. Um, but maybe in the 10 years ago, I was more about success and achievement and growth and, like really, yeah, like more about achievement.
Yeah. Do you
Yeah.
mind if I share when before you, like we talked the day before this training with Tony began on
Yeah.
the call, on the phone, and I was sharing with you a thought that I had had as I was thinking about you going into the Tony environment. And I was looking at our whole history of Happy Jack Yoga and also reflecting on this whole journey through the Tony experience. And remember how we were talking about like in the past, there was always, it seems like there was always a little bit of like a, yeah, like maybe not just success, but like the need for financial security because we didn't have a consistent income. We would live from one event to the next, meaning Happy Jack Yoga programs, we would fill them, then we would work really hard to facilitate the training. And then 3 weeks later or some months later, we would have the next training and we would have to work really hard to fill the next training. So it wasn't like we had a consistent salary. Then
Mhm.
that's just an example. And I know you're shared from your earlier, like wiring just from earlier years that there was always like this kind of fear, like kind of a subconscious fear driving you. And now that we've changed that, partly also thanks to Tony, but now that that isn't the case anymore, I was asking you, imagine how much you'll get out of this now that you don't have this kind of primal fear driving you, where you can just enjoy the process and you don't have to prove anything to anyone. There's nothing like there's nothing you need to get out
Hmm.
of any of it except being of service and enjoying what you're being taught, because it's a really inspiring environment, right? So how
Hmm.
would you say, like, did that happen, and
Yeah.
how was that experience for you?
It definitely did. It definitely did. And I guess I'm initially here speaking to how it was like a bit intense and
Yeah.
exhaustive. You just hear it in my voice, even a bit tired still the day after. Um, but it was different. Yeah, 10 years ago, even 5 years ago, because at that stage we were, just finding our feet and making Happy Jack Yoga sustainable and consistent. And so there was like a need, there was a bigger worry of like, just being there meant that things weren't happening back at home with Happy Jack Yoga. But it felt really good being in a place of I got nothing to prove. I've got nothing to accomplish, nothing to achieve. I'm not trying to climb the ladder, and that was part of it. The first 5 years with Tony, right, came in at the ground level where everyone does, and made it to the top of the Team Tony ranks as a trainer, you could say. And but yeah, I guess a lot of people commented. They said even 5 years ago, I was also a lot more not intense like in a bad way, but a lot more passionate, a lot more high energy, bouncing around. And so there was not that there was anything inauthentic or anything wrong, but there was like, or not even immature is not the right word, but now there is more of a maturity and a groundedness and an inner knowing of who you are, who I am. And I felt that. So there's, dozens of people, everybody's like, yeah, you're just like, people would want to come over and just put their hand on me, on my shoulder. They're like, you're just so calm and grounded. Like, I don't mind if I come over and just put my hand on your shoulder every once in a while. Um,
That's how they co-regulated. Your nervous system was regulated, and then it impacts other people. So they also calm down and get grounded.
mm, yeah. And so I guess, I mean, I'm not sure what to say. I mean, it felt, like I said, the first few days were exhaustive and I felt out of my element, and I was asking myself, what am I doing here? Like I kind of just want to be at home going for a swim and living really simply. But then I came back to the conversation you had of like, okay, well, I'm here. Like these are great people. Like they're successful people. They're people who really want to give and serve. I mean, just as an example, there was some beautiful shares, and someone kind of put up a challenge about there's this program called Marichi where it's an organization that goes into these environments around the world where it's almost like the worst thing to talk about or to say, but like child sex trafficking, and it's particularly with these young girls, like just girls, 11, 9, like young, and they're going in to prevent this and to stop this. And so basically this challenge was shared, like, for $500, you can save a life. They have an operation for $500 that covers like the team and the resources and the travel to go in under these undercover operations and to save a young girl's life for 500. And so Tony put out the challenge. He's like, let's save some lives. Let's save some lives today. And he said, and Tony said, I'll match the first 250,000. So if we raise, if together as the group of us, like 3,000, if we raise 250,000, like Tony will put in another 250. So that could have been like 500,000. By the end of the night, we raised 2.4 million.
Wow.
$4 million, which is like over 4,700 lives were saved. Happy Jack Yoga saved one. We contributed 500, and I mean, just to like that's what it's about. And so Tony says like business is a spiritual game.
Mm.
So it's almost like again how I think I went really extreme with not in a bad way, but just really deep into the spirituality and the spiritual practices. And like, this is all I got to do is wake up and do my yoga and do my chanting and do my spiritual practices. And, but then if we do come together with good people and there is a sense of like an inner calling and an urge to make a difference and save lives and engage in big projects, that's also a way to engage and to serve and to contribute. So yeah, I was just inspired being in an environment like that. And I mean, it goes on and on. My team also, I led a team. We were called the Yoga Warriors, of course, had to have some yoga involved. And there's these little team competitions. And without going into the whole backstory, but one of the members of our team, his 16-year-old son committed suicide last year. So it's just like, the hardest thing, right? And of course, he turns his story into strength, his pain into presence, which is part of our mission. Thanks, Sarah and George. And so this individual did the same thing, is that he thought about like, him and his wife, like, what are we gonna do? And so they started talking to the friends of the son and kind of learning like what are the need? What do you guys need? How can we support you? And just really understanding and actually not afraid to talk about suicide. He got up on stage and he said suicide, like, and he said it a few times, like, we can't be afraid to talk about this. It's scary, it's terrible, but avoiding the word is not going to have the teens not do it because they're going to hear it. They're going to know. So this guy, I obviously can't tell the story the way he did, but he ended up on the stage with Tony for 20 minutes. And so they created this program and this awareness, and they're part of our team, and that's how they ended up on stage. They won this competition. But just seeing that
And
the
that
work,
was just a participant?
that was a participant, yeah.
Mm.
It's just a participant on our team, right? Because then at the beginning of the program, everybody's put into groups of 6, and basically over the course of the 5-day event, it's like, you guys come up with a business, come up with an idea, come up with a business, apply everything you're learning here at the event, brand yourself, and go out and raise awareness, do the marketing. This is all like during the breaks of a very busy program. And so this group, they started with 6 people. They ended up recruiting 150 people. So they had a huge group. They all had t-shirts, they had banners, they had QR codes. They just really raised awareness. And actually, I mean, I can't get into the whole story, but a teenager got up on stage there, and he shared that he literally has been having the ideas and the thoughts of this, and he connected to this group during the event, and he was up on stage bawling his eyes out. I'm talking like a 14-year-old boy, little Indian boy, American born. And so just like seeing the impact and being a part of that is beautiful as well. And
Absolutely. I feel emotional when you share that, just because I know how, like, maybe not everyone listening to this has been to a Tony Robbins event, and this is not an advertisement for Tony Robbins events, but it's incredible what people can do when they care and when they come together like, a lot of listeners here have been to a Happy Jack Yoga community call, or satsang community call, Sunday satsang, or any kind of sharing circle. And most of the participants report that they had an experience that they can't quite define. And I would say Tony's um, events are very much similar, where you come together and it's just real people. And you could say, like, that sounds very American because we're Europeans. We don't have this type of tradition, maybe, of being so quick. Like, in a matter of 5 days, you set up a business and you recruit 150 people. That's pretty incredible. And when you do it for a great cause, it's just so deeply touching.
then they raised $70,000, like from just the people there and reaching out and doing social media. And and they did a social media post and it went viral and got like 1.2 million views because they were able to get it shared on influencers. Like they took action, they made things happen. And so that's probably initially what inspired me by the environment. So I was like all in on the growth and the impact and the contribution. And then of course I go and live at the ashram and I'm like all into like the healing and the grounding and the sattvic and
And
both
maybe
serve a
the
purpose.
inner world, like if we think about the world, sometimes we're very much in the external world, making change right here. And then in the spiritual practice, we also tend to the inner world that is maybe a bit more subtle and more quiet. Not that only do that, but that's maybe something that, like, to describe the shift a little bit, maybe that could be right, that you tend more to the inside. Could that be?
I mean, I'm definitely an introvert naturally. Um, but I guess so the aspects of it that were good for me, like some of the thing, like when we met with the trainers the day before the program started, and one thing Tad, our head trainer, said is that we transform people by our presence. And
Mm.
you shared that when you lost your first husband, right? Like when people were present, they couldn't say the right thing, they couldn't do anything about the circumstance. But this idea that we transform people by our presence, because as trainers of Tony Robbins, we've spent thousands of hours in training. Like I know how to like all these different NLP and NAC techniques, like change personal history and things like, yeah, a whole bunch of different NLP techniques, which we have those skills. Because like at an event, if someone is suicidal or someone is in a very suffering state, like we have the tools to like empower them and bring them out of that. But actually that's all secondary to simply our presence. And I feel that's something that the yoga and the spirituality has helped cultivate. Because I told many of the people, I'm like, honestly, I forget all those steps. I forget how to do all these different techniques and tools. And, I'm sure it would come back quickly, but I don't remember step one, two, three, four. But I feel very comfortable in any circumstance with any person, no matter what they're going through. I feel very comfortable to be with that person and to know I have faith that I'll know what to say. I'll be guided. And so that just comes down to presence. And another thing, and then Vicky, something she said is like, well, what if we lived our lives like we were a public figure? And she's like, because by the way, here at this event, we are Tony Robbins to most people, because most people are not going to get a chance to interact one-on-one with him. And that's why each of us lead a team of like 100 participants, and they come to us. And so, just the nature, we've got the jacket on, in that container, we are public figures, but she's like, well, take that outside of your life. Like, how would you live your life if you were a public figure? And that's actually something I love about this podcast. I mean, not that we're like big time influencers or something like that, but this is a public platform, and we have the opportunity to be as open and honest and vulnerable as we so choose. And I got some things that I want to share on my heart in a little bit today. Again, that came out of this experience at Tony's. But I think it's just, I don't know. I guess what I'm recognizing, is that, and this is a conversation I had with one of the master trainers there. You don't have to be all in or all out, because that's my tendency, right? It's like I'm all in or I'm all out. But then when I was talking to her, she didn't make it wrong. She didn't be like, she's like, well, she was asking me all the right questions. Like, what has this got you in life? And well, man, I've accomplished this and I've accomplished that, da, da, da. And okay, well, what does it cost you? Well, it's cost me this and it's cost me that, say, okay, so, anyways, like just kind of learning my nature and learning tendencies. And, Yeah, so I think it's good and healthy to have access to and to be connected to different, yeah, to different types of people, to different environments.
Yeah, I love that. I want to circle back to what you said about how we transform people by our presence.
Yeah.
I think that that's like the most healing thing we can do because
Mm.
one definition of trauma that we all have is that any event could be traumatic, but the ones where we are kind of left alone with it is what turns into trauma. So any event that where there's not the presence of a caregiver or someone who deeply cares or can understand and doesn't make it wrong or right, just the fact that we can navigate and share and explore and wonder around what has happened and what the impact, like life happens so fast that we don't, in our culture we don't have a tradition where we kind of slow down and investigate what is happening with someone in the presence of someone who's calm and grounded. So I really love what you brought up with the transforming people by our presence, because that's what we do to ourselves too in our yoga practice, in our meditation, in our spiritual practices, on our morning walks. There's no guidebook or rule book for spirituality, but there's many ways it comes to life in us. And that is how we are present with each other, with ourselves. And that's what's healing when we can do that. And so, yes, there's many techniques like you shared, like NLP and all kinds of, you know, techniques to change. We do a lot of yogic practices or breathing practices that can be up regulating or down regulating, meaning exciting or calming, right? So we can do all of that. We have lots of tools, but the actual healing, I think it happens in the presence as we witness something, as we notice the impact of something and just explore it, that we recognize it. I always talk about this, and I'm sure, like, right, remember how I often say, like, what reveals itself right here, what reveals in this conversation, what you learn about yourself is explored together in a safe setting. And then through this presence, we can explore something new. We can see things in a new light. And so you said also, to kind of wrap your share up, you said when you were talking to the master training, you were like, she was asking you questions and you were learning about your own nature. You were noticing what is true in her presence.
Hmm.
And that's such a simple, basic, foundational human thing to do, yet we don't really typically name it. We don't cultivate it in our culture that much. Maybe when we age, we kind of go like, oh, this feels good. Actually, slowing things down, like you were saying, you're craving to be in your routine where you have the time to breathe and sleep and swim and be present,
Hmm.
and you appreciate the interactions with, for example, the master training where you can explore who you've become today, who you are now.
Yeah. Yeah, and it was so, what was really nice about that conversation is that she didn't make any of my tendencies wrong in any
Mm,
way. There was no, not even a hint at it, not even like it wasn't like even a pretend of like it's okay.
yeah.
Like I genuinely felt she was honoring and celebrating my all in, all out tendency. She honored it. She celebrates like, oh my God, like look at what it's got you in life. And and what else could you, to integrate with that so that you didn't have the downsides of it.
Mm,
And yeah, I mean, you talk about like, sorry, for those on audio, you won't know, but I put my glasses on, but I feel I can see clearly now the rain has gone. I don't know why. But like, I see Rita and Angie, you guys have glasses. I can see better with my glasses on. I didn't know that applied to laptops, but I gotta schedule an eye exam as soon as I get home to Muskoka, because somehow glasses make it easier to see the computers. There's got to be something to it. But something else that I realized that after the first few days, I felt like I didn't like I was in a beautiful state. Like nobody could tell that what I was thinking or that I felt out of place. Like I'm very easy to put on a smile and connect and hug, and so there was no cause for concern. But I felt a bit withdrawn. And every opportunity I got, I was like, I'm gonna sneak out and take a little power nap or a yoga nidra. And then I realized like there's some big decisions weighing on my heart, not in a bad way, but just like some big decisions I felt like that I need to make in life, or I'm at a crossroads of making, and I'm just kind of carrying those with me. And there's people on this call, our team that I've shared them with, and but I thought these are great people. These are like seriously highly trained coaches and therapists and like really good souls. So I thought, why not, share what I'm navigating. And I actually haven't even explicitly shared it even with the Happy Jack Yoga community directly. And so one of those big decisions, now that school has finished at Harvard for the past 3 years, which was, I've said it before, but the greatest gift. Like it was such a perfect program. It was practical. It deepened my spiritual practice. Like there's nothing about it was just like perfect. And so the natural tendency is like, well, maybe I should continue studying. And you'll remember, Hanna, from our sabbatical in 2020, the original vision was, how cool would that be to have at the time it was about being cool, but then no, but how meaningful would that be about getting a PhD in yoga? So all of these signs and all of these doors started opening, where professors like Edwin Bryant and several others were like encouraging me, like, you should do this, you should keep going on the path. And then even a spiritual teacher, Radhanath Swami, was encouraging of the path. And then even a great university, Oxford University in the UK, expressed interest. You should come and study here. You've got the personality to do something with this, to really engage it. And then even a well-wisher with regards to the financial aspect of it, because it would be a financial commitment. And so like all of these signs, you could say, from the universe were suggesting to go and do this. And so I kind of decided, like, if I can come up with a project that is like super meaningful and frankly fun, something I would really enjoy, and something that would be impactful for Happy Jack Yoga and impactful for the greater yoga community, that would be great. Like, why not? Especially since I could have done the program from home. So I could stay in Muskoka and actually just go to the UK for 1 month per year, right? So very, very small time commitment in that sense. And so all of these signs were indicating like, yeah, you got to do it. The only thing is, every time I brought a project idea to the different professors and to Oxford, it's kind of like, that's a great project, but it's not academic enough. It's not scholarly enough. It's not deep enough in the texts. And every time I've been getting these kind of responses, it's just a little bit deflating, because like I could adjust the program and do something that, I could just do what they want, but then I'm not doing what I want, and I'm not doing what really serves Happy Jack Yoga and our community. So I've kind of just been like in this internal pull of like, in one way, I feel it's quite a privilege to even have an opportunity to do something like this. And, part of it's like, I should do it, but then also knowing the commitment it is. And so that's what I've been navigating. So just being able to share that with different people, like I shared that with my therapist, Danya, last week. I've shared it with our team, I've shared, and then being able to share it with different people. And of course, everybody has a little bit of a bias, an interpersonal bias, even if it's unintentional. The scholars are all, of course, you got to do it, keep going, and people who non-scholars are like, man, they're crazy. Like that's such a huge commitment. Like it's a waste. It's a huge time commitment. And but I guess I just feel like at a place of, and there was an intervention where Tony was talking to somebody about the current education system and a woman who has a PhD, and I feel like I was just hearing all the things I needed to hear. Where I don't feel any pressure anymore. I would feel completely content walking away from that path and putting all of our focus on Happy Jack Yoga. And like one thing Dunya, my therapist, said, she's like, well, clearly you have more, you're a student. One of your archetypes is being a student. So like you're going to keep reading, and clearly there's some writing in you. Like you could write a book, and then you can study whatever you want and write whatever you want and go at whatever pace you want and not need any approval. And so I guess the point is, I find it really helpful being able to share and to have this conversation with multiple different people, even knowing that everyone might have a little bit of a bias, but being able to not have to figure it out by myself. Because there's some days, even when I'm back home in Muskoka, living in this Sattvic lifestyle, there were days the past month where I felt, you were over in Norway, so we're not really talking much because totally different time zones. And I did feel alone with this decision, and it was weighing on me and not knowing what to do. And so I just feel like it's really healthy and helpful to be able to talk about it.
Yeah. And I guess it's your way of processing and arriving to the right conclusion or the right decision for the moment is by sharing it with multiple people with the different so-called biases or with the different perspectives that they might have, because you really want to go to the bottom of it and you really want to make an informed decision. That being said, I think that whatever you end up doing or deciding, maybe now you're leaning towards not doing it right now, there's nothing that's going to close any doors. You can still do it. Maybe there's another time point where you feel like, now I do want to commit and it feels like the right decision. So there's no wrong decision.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's, yeah, because there was benefits to it as well. It would be a very Sattvic practice. Like I would get to live my simple life in Muskoka, Canada, and spend my days reading and writing and continuing to serve Happy Jack Yoga. But yeah, it's right. The doors aren't closed. And, but yeah, somebody said, like, will this get you what you want? Like, say, credibility for our school, visibility, impact, like a project that would meaningfully contribute. And the answer is yes, it would get those things, but it's not the only way. It's not the only path. It's not a requirement.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I guess the other thing I was going to say about that is that I could tell when talking with people who have more experience or I don't know what the right word is, if it's maturity or what, but like, cause some people I shared, at the Tony environment, of course the bias there, most people are like, don't do it, right? The academics are do it. The people at Tony are don't do it. Cause they're all, Tony's never been to university. Like he's a billionaire, right? And with an incredible impact and contribution. And, but so some of the, maybe the newer, younger people in that environment would just quickly jump to don't do it. But I found that the more mature ones that don't tell me what to do, but rather ask questions and help me kind of unreveal. But I guess it's just nice being in a place where there's no pressure. And like, I remember when I was talking to Dunya, and like that was the first time that like the pressure was removed and this idea of not doing it. And I just felt like this huge pressure off my shoulders. And I thought, holy shit. Like if my schedule just opened up, if I take the PhD off the table, and the other thing that we were talking about was like how many Tony Robbins events to do. That's the other thing where I tend to be all in or all out. Like Tony would invite me every month for the rest of my life, every month somewhere. And it's a privilege and it's an opportunity. And as I shared at the beginning of this call, it's exhausting and it takes a lot of energy and it takes a lot of time. So, being okay with, well, what if it was once a quarter? Go, that's okay. There's no expectation, there's no requirement.
Some people would say that's a lot too, even.
So yeah, that's still a lot for some, yeah. But I'm just thinking, but it just feels really good to think like if I took all of that, of course this is the all out, all in, all out person. But if I just like, okay, no PhD and no Tony Robbins events and just Happy Jack yoga, like all of a sudden, wow, oh my goodness, I can like breathe. I have time. I can actually enjoy a meal with my parents and not have to like rush upstairs to be working on the next iteration of a proposal that's not suitable for the academics, like it's just been working really hard. Came out of graduated in May, haven't slowed down and craving that.
That's so crazy. Like, I remember when you were still finishing your Harvard year, like March, April, May, you were so tired. And the plan was that you take some time off. Like, I would cover anything that I could for you in terms of Happy Jack Yoga, and you would take some time off. And it doesn't seem like there was a lot of time off, really.
No, I mean, because even the so-called time off, like going down to visit our friend Mars in West Virginia, and then going over to the UK, spending an amazing weekend with Sarah and George, and then going to check out a retreat center in Italy, and then going to visit Oxford University, and they were they were very inspiring, but they weren't. It wasn't time off. It wasn't downtime, right? And the thing is, from all of those different visits, huge ideas came, which means like more to do, more to do, more to work on. And it was things I'm very inspired by. But I think that I I think that the deep clarity came when we went on that sabbatical in October 2020, like just really slowing down. So, truthfully, all of these ideas may happen, right? Like a few Tony Robbins events will happen. As you said, maybe the PhD sometime in the future if it feels right, because there's never the door is not closed, but it feels good to just slow down and truthfully, one thing that's always been clear is that Happy Jack Yoga is a priority. It's our priority. We've always prioritized like taking care of the community, but now we also need to prioritize and take care of bringing in new voices, new yogis, to ensure the sustainability of it.
Yeah, that sounds like a good plan to me, but that I'm biased in that way.
Yeah. And the other thing that I got, there's a great guy who spoke on the stage, Dan Martell. He's Canadian, actually, from Nova Scotia. He's become super successful. He's like a year older than me. Anyways, he spoke, he speaks on many different topics, but he spoke about AI. And, I think it's something in just the past year and years, I've kind of had no interest in or resistance to, now kind of dabbling a bit with Chat GPT. But I wish I had the quote in front of me, but basically he said, we're not going to be replaced by AI, but we're going to be replaced by people who are using AI. So it's like the people who are using it and engaging it and leveraging it. It's such a benefit. But anyways, the one thing he said, he's like, I'm a talker, not a typer. And that really resonated with me. So, because nowadays with AI, you can just hit the voice record and start, talking and not have to type it. And I thought about that as well. Like, coming back to PhD, I'd have to write a 350 page academic paper. Like that would be the output, 350 page. I mean, when I had to do 10 to 12 page papers at Harvard, that was like, oh my God, this is like the worst thing in the world. Yeah, I'm not a writer. I'm not a typer. I'm a talker. And so thinking about that, and this is actually a way we technology is that we can talk and we can express ourselves. We could take the recording of this podcast, I think I've been all over the place, but say if we have a good session like this, and this can get transcribed and polished up and become a chapter of a book, or some little snippet of, a little 10-minute section of one of our Zoom recordings. And so kind of knowing our nature versus some people, our friend Alice in the UK and many others, some people love to write, right? So like blog and writing, that's their jam. And others, they're maybe dyslexic and they can't write at all or they can't type fast, but man, put a podcast mic in front and they're good to go. So I think honoring that as well.
Yeah, that's powerful. I love
Yeah.
that. Hmm.
And I mean, I know that Sarah and George will support it because they're multi-volume authors, but that really, and now I'm asking you, Hanna, as my friend, to just make sure I don't go too all in or out of balance. But I actually get really excited about this idea of writing a book, like to use this next year and a half, or I know it doesn't have to take that long, but to just really, yeah, like what is our message? What is the message of Happy Jack Yoga? What is the transformation that we witness and that we're a part of, and how can that become a helpful resource, a tool for members of our community? Can weave in our story and our life experiences and our dark night of the soul moments and transformations. And I don't know, but that kind of excites me. So I don't want to just like now obsess about that 24/7 for the next year and a half, but I,
But you
I
might.
yes, well, I would want to find a nice like Sattvic ritual, just doing it like every day, being that part of the morning practice, like getting out and writing. And but maybe remember, I'm a typer, or I'm a talker, not a typer. So being able to talk it in, and get audio recorded and have the AI clean up all the spelling and finding a way to do that.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that there's different ways to write as well. There's creative writing, which could be, I find, like I can get really inspired if I'm writing about a topic that I care about and that I have something to say about. Maybe I've researched it, I have my personal experience of it. Then it can be deeply even like educational and enlightening and expansive. Like it's almost like having a really deep, good conversation with someone. When you leave the conversation, like you feel like, oh my God, that was just an amazing conversation. It feels like it expands my soul and who I am. Sometimes writing can feel like that. And maybe that's not academic writing. For some, it could be. But I find that there's you can definitely have a writing practice that is amazing. And
Yeah.
I've had that experience, for example, with Regina, my friend, who is a writer, who is a very creative mind. And it just depends as well what we like. If we get to that right place, like you're kind of alluding towards, like having a part of your morning to go to a creative place of expressing yourself, whether you say it to your phone or to your computer or type it out, and maybe it's going to end up being a combination of both. It can be deeply um, rewarding for yourself and beautiful offering to those who are interested in reading.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I think that's what, I mean, ultimately, when we come back to these big questions of like, what is the purpose of life? Why do we exist? It's often it's about contribution and, sharing and connecting and relationships. And so just thinking about, how, what is the outcome? what is it that we truly want to create, and what is the vision, where are we walking towards, and what will get us there. And but the way that you talk, Hanna, about your writing, like that's how I feel. That's exactly how I feel from the Happy Jack Yoga satsang calls and the sharing circles. Just being able to share myself, and being able to hear others share, and being able to just be in community, like that's what I walk away feeling. And so knowing that about ourselves, like, these some of these scholars I'm talking to, like one guy who just graduated that same PhD program at Oxford, when I look at his writing, and like, he loves to write. He's clearly, and he's a scholar, he's an academic, and I I faked my way through it, or not faked, but I got myself through it. But it's not my nature. I'd much rather be on a Zoom. Like, I could do this. I could do this 8 hours a day until my voice got tired. But I wouldn't say that about writing. And that's just me personally. So kind of knowing, what is it that makes us feel alive and feel nourished. And, but I mean, the other thing is, whatever we do consistently, like, that's what we get good at, and whether that's, so coming back to the Tony event, like, it was actually great practice for me, for those who are coming to India, Angie, Sarah, George, others. It was great practice leading a group of like 100 people, right? And having to use my voice, like, to be able to engage and draw people in, and use the volume and all of that. Like, that was, it was just really great practice to stretch, because I haven't done that in a while. So I'm very comfortable leading in Zoom, but all of a sudden, when you got a big group of people in person, we have to show up differently. And so whatever it is that we practice, we get better at.
Yeah, definitely. It's almost like when we kind of hone and engage that part of ourselves, then that becomes stronger, almost like a language, right? If you were to, like, if we had been writing throughout our whole adult lives, we would maybe be more fluent at writing. But now that, like you shared, when you started Harvard, you hadn't been to school for 20 years. Of course, you've been typing emails and all kinds of Word docs and Google documents and making plans, but that's different way of using your creativity than typing up sentences. And in the academic world, you have to type out sentences that are kind of working in other people's research to say what you want to say. So it takes a lot of research to be able to write academically. And
Well, I mean, let's be honest here for a second. Even with this PhD proposal, so we had our friend George. George wrote the first version, because, like, he's good. He was able to do it. Then the second and third versions I used Chat GPT. I can't even. I have to be honest with myself. I
mm,
can't even bring myself. I have no interest in sitting down and writing a few pages of a proposal, because I don't like to write. So why would I get myself into a program where that's the whole all I'm going to do for 4 years is write and deliver a 350-page academic paper? Like, it's got to be, it would have to be. So of course there's the benefits where if it's a book that I really do love, like, I could engage a book that I love, but that's a really strong consideration, the fact that I'd have to do so much writing. And that's what they say, it's writing and rewriting and rewriting and getting feedback and rewriting. Like, that does not, that to me just makes me go, oh my God.
sounds like
That's,
torture.
it sounds like, yeah. So, like, that's why I gotta be really honest. Like, would it be cool to say Dr. Happy Jack? Well, okay, but is it worth 4 years of my life? So, I mean, you're hearing it now. So if you guys ever see me going on this PhD wagon again, remind me to listen to podcast episode 140.
All the way to the end.
Yeah, yeah, but we'll see. We'll see. but I think, but this, so in that sense, like that's why I was grateful to get back in this environment with Tony. And, some people there said, don't do it. Some people asked really good questions, but it was just another voice outside of the scholars, outside of the yogis, outside of the spiritual devotees. This was like the high achieving entrepreneurs and just getting that other perspective. And if through conversations with Sarah and George and with Dunya and with you, Hanna, and with now with the Tony community, has inspired me to walk away from that PhD. Like, well, that just saved me a lot of time and a lot of money.
Yeah.
And maybe there's a book that'll get released in the next year, right? And but let's see. And again, we're not closing the door 100% because maybe there's a different school where there's a program that can be more like Harvard, where it's very practical, right?
Yeah.
Because that's what George and I working on the first iteration. It was like very practical. It was like I would spend the rest of my life doing that project because it was like this is engaging our community. This is very relevant. So maybe there's a path out there, and it's just not a less academic school like Oxford, Cambridge. They're very academic. But
Yeah.
let's.
Hmm.
But we're here. We're safe. We're healthy. We're gonna be back together in Canada in a few hours. So I'm heading to the airport right now. Flight leaves in 2 hours. So Hanna, we'll see you this afternoon.
Sounds
And
good.
friends, thank you so much for being here. Stay tuned. Lots of goodness. Who knows what's next, but it's we're in it together. So thank you for taking the time, and we'll chat again soon. Namaste.
Namaste.